Welcome into Brewers Daily, your daily Brewers podcast, coming at you, providing you all the coverage, all the analysis that you want of your favorite team, the Milwaukee Brewers. I am Dave Gasper, your host. Excited to bring this to you. We've got a lot coming up here on the show today. The GM meetings are underway in Las Vegas, so we will get to reports coming on that and what all goes on there. The important dates that are coming up the rest of the offseason here. And what the Brewers could be doing in the starting rotation, because it sounds like we may see one of the big pieces of that starting rotation coming back next year. That's where I want to start here on this episode of Brewers Daily. Freddie Peralta, an oft-rumored trade candidate. He's entering his last season of team control on an $8 million club option that the Brewers already picked up. And he's the ace of the staff. He's just coming off the best year of his career. And with 1 year of team control left, as is expected for a small market team like the Brewers, trade rumors are circulating. You think the Brewers are going to trade him before he hits free agency, get whatever value back that you can, improve the club, get some prospects, get some guys with long-term control, and that's going to be how the Brewers roll. That's how they have rolled with Devin Williams, with Corbin Burnes, with Josh Hader. They've done it numerous times. It is more than a trend at this point. But will Freddie Peralta break that trend is the question. And according to Bob Nightingale of USA Today, the Brewers are planning to break that trend with Freddie Peralta. And they are planning to keep Freddie Peralta heading into his final season of club control. So these are just current plans. Plans may change depending on the offers on the table. Matt Arnold has already talked about how they have to be open to anything. They can't close the door on anything regarding Freddie Peralta. But that being said, they love what he brings to the clubhouse, his leadership, what he means to the team. It's all super important. So it's all the same kind of things he said about Devin Williams, about Corbin Burnes, about all these guys that they've ended up trading before. But with Peralta, he's such an important leader for that club and what you need in that rotation, because you have a very young group in that starting rotation, and that's something where it's important to have a valuable, it's important to have a leader, a veteran with experience to help that group through. And that's what Freddie Peralta has been, and that's what I think he needs to continue to be. So there's Bob Nightingale's report that the Brewers are going to keep him. And then you see John Morosi and all these others thinking, oh, the Red Sox are a great fit for Freddie Peralta. Maybe he could get traded there, because they are still running with the idea that Peralta is going to get traded. And he still very well could be. I mean, it's Bob Nightingale, and this is the early stages of the offseason. You can plan to keep him all you want, but if an offer comes in that blows you away, I think that could very well change. So we'll see what that offer is going to have to be. This is likely just Matt Arnold putting the price out there, putting the pressure out there. It's like, hey, look, we're not planning to move him. If you want him, you're going to have to pay up to get him. That's what it seems like Matt Arnold is trying to say to all the other GMs right now. But with that starting rotation, how important it is to have Freddie Peralta on it, because the Brewers still need to figure out how they're going to fill out the rest of that rotation in 2026. Because you have to have Peralta there, or Woodruff. You have to have one of those two veterans leading the charge in that rotation. Woodruff is a free agent. Now, they still could re-sign him. He could still accept the qualifying offer in return for next season. But you have full control over what happens with Freddie Peralta. You do not have full control over what happens with Brandon Woodruff. So I think, especially for the time being here, Freddie Peralta is going to stick with the Milwaukee Brewers. If Brandon Woodruff comes back, then maybe I could see a possibility that Freddie Peralta ends up getting traded. But you need at least one of those guys leading that rotation. You do not control whether or not Woodruff comes back. If he ends up leaving, I think for sure Peralta stays. But how do you fill out that rotation after him? Because you have 8 legitimate candidates for that starting rotation that could fill in and make that group go. Because you got Quinn Priester, you got Jacob Mizorowski, you got Logan Henderson, you got Robert Gasser, you got DL Hall, you got Aaron Ashby, you got Tobias Myers, you got Chad Patrick. You got 8 legitimate guys right there that could fill out your starting rotation, and they could be in a rotation for just about any team in Major League Baseball. But several of them are not going to make this Brewers rotation because you only have 5 spots. And with Peralta and or Woodruff as the one leading the way, you really only got 4 spots for them. So that's going to be something that the Brewers will end up having to figure out in spring training and see who separates themselves from the pack. Now, I would have to imagine at this point, Quinn Priester and Jacob Misiorowski have the legs up to lock down a rotation spot heading into next year. Heading into spring training, you'd have to imagine Priester's penciled in after what he did this season. You'd have to imagine that Jacob Misiorowski is penciled in just with his pure talent, his pure ability, and what he showed really kind of down the final stretch of the season, especially the postseason. He really balled out in the postseason, so I'd have to imagine he's going to be in there. And as for the final couple of spots, I mean, those two are really going to be up for grabs between those final 6 candidates there because we've seen a lot of success in the big leagues from Tobias Myers. We saw a bunch of success this year from Chad Patrick. We know the Brewers like DL Hall and Aaron Ashby as starters. They have tried to get them to be starters for the past couple of years here. Injuries have kind of prevented that. It pushed them into a bullpen role. But especially with what they're paying Ashby, the fact that they signed him to a long-term deal, I think they'd like to see him as a starter. So that's still a possibility that they're going to have to look at. And then you got the guys, the prospects, Logan Henderson, Robert Gasser, that definitely have the upside of being mid-rotation starters that you'd love to see in there. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that battle works out in spring training. But regardless, you have to have at least one of Freddie Peralta and Brandon Woodruff leading this group through the offseason. And the offseason is going to be continuing here with some very important dates that are coming up. So on November 18th is really kind of the biggest date that they have coming up here because that is the deadline for Brandon Woodruff to accept or reject the qualifying offer in front of him for just over $22 million. So the Brewers will know by then if they're getting draft pick compensation, if Woodruff leaves, and or if they've got him back for 1 year. And if he's back for 1 year, how does that change the calculus for the rest of the Brewers offseason? Could they end up trading Freddie Peralta if Brandon Woodruff accepts? They also still could sign him to a multi-year deal, sign him to a completely different brand new contract than the qualifying offer. But also on November 18th there, you have the deadline for the teams to set their 40-man rosters for the Rule 5 draft. So that's when you're going to see the minor league prospects getting added to the roster. The Brewers currently have 2 open 40-man roster spots, so not a ton, but the Brewers also don't have a ton of candidates that they need to protect this year. But we'll go more into the prospects that could be getting protected coming up on future episodes here of Brewers Daily, so be sure to stay tuned for that. So that's all coming up on November 18th. On November 21st is the tender deadline, or if you're more pessimistic, the non-tender deadline. That's when you have to decide whether or not to tender contracts for your arbitration-eligible players. That could also create a couple more free agents, depending on what the Brewers decide to do. But I don't think the Brewers have too many obvious non-tender candidates this year. The closest one is probably Jake Bauers to a non-tender candidate. But even still, the Brewers have seemed to like him. He ended the season pretty much on a hot streak. He was one of their better hitters in the postseason as well. And what he brings as a left-handed bat at first base as a complement to the right-handed Andrew Vaughn. His defensive versatility, being able to play some corner outfield, I think that's huge for the Brewers as well. So I could very easily see the Brewers tendering Jake Bauers. His projections around $2 million for next season's salary, so I could very easily see him coming back. But that's something we'll also get into more as we get closer to that tender deadline here on Brewers Daily. But that's coming up November 21st. So those are kind of the big roster dates where we're going to see some moves here during that week, during those few days coming up in about a week and a half. And then the winter meetings in early December, the 8th through the 11th, or the 7th through the 10th. It's debatable whether or not it starts on that Sunday or that Monday. It's kind of when everyone's showing up in town on that Sunday, and then things really kind of get going seemingly on that Monday. So whether you call it starting, on the 7th or the 8th, still it's that whole week there, that first half of that week. The winter meetings going on in Orlando. That's where we see a ton of activity, and there should be plenty that the Brewers could be rumored about and making moves in. But as for what's going on right now in the MLB offseason calendar, it's the GM meetings. The GM meetings are going on right now in Las Vegas. Matt Arnold is down there in Las Vegas, and now we're starting to see some rumors start to percolate here from the insiders, from the sources. These meetings are where all the GMs are talking to each other and they're figuring out, okay, what do I need? What do you need? What do I have available? What do you have available? And this is where we start seeing the groundwork get laid for these future trades that could be coming up at their winter meetings or at any point throughout the offseason here. This is where you're figuring out where other teams are at, what they're looking for, what they have available, what they're looking to move. And you can tell them, okay, here's what I have available, here's what I'm looking to move, and you start putting that out there and getting those feelers put out there. And so that's really kind of what this week is about for the GMs. They are setting that groundwork, laying that foundation for what will happen the rest of this offseason. So we're starting to see some rumors come out, and that's where we saw the Freddie Peralta rumor from Bob Nightingale that the Brewers are planning on keeping him. Now, again, that could be Matt Arnold just posturing, hey, we're planning on keeping him in order to drive up the price, telling other teams, like, hey, look, if you want Freddie Peralta, it's going to cost you. You're going to have to pay up. We're not just looking to give him away. So if you want to get Freddie Peralta on your team, you're going to have to blow me away with an offer. So that's where a lot of this gets started. And that's what we're kind of seeing start to come out now as these GM meetings are underway. Even though we don't see deals consummated, this is where the magic really kind of starts to happen. So the offseason's only really just getting going in full swing here. And we're going to be covering it all off-season long. We're going to be covering it every single day here on Brewers Daily and getting you all the latest rumors, the latest coverage, and thoughts on what the Brewers might be doing and how they can best build a winning roster heading into 2026. Be sure to subscribe and follow to Brewers Daily on YouTube, and be sure to follow me on Twitter as well at dgasper24. Never miss an episode as long as you subscribe there, and we'll continue to push out that content and follow me there for a lot of my other Brewers thoughts and ramblings and whatever it is that I end up talking about there. So it is an exciting time to be a Brewers fan. I'm coming off a 97-win season, and they've got a lot more still yet to do in order to get themselves back and get themselves to that World Series championship. Hopefully, one day they may get there. But that'll do it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Again, be sure to subscribe on YouTube to Brewers Daily. So thank you for listening. This has been another episode of Brewers Daily.